want to thank President Martin for his acknowledgement and kind of wrapping up some of the things that we have had there. I also want to express right now, before our closing activity, how much I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to be with us. Whether you've only been on for 30 minutes and heard the last 30 minutes, or whether you've been with us for 4 hours, our goal and desire was to build this for you to be helpful and usable. We've got one last thing that we would like to ask you to do. Heather's going to put into the chat a PDF that's a fillable PDF, and it's a pretty simple question that we want to ask you, and that is whether you've invested 30 minutes of time or 4 hours of time. What is one thing that would be a takeaway from your investment of this time that you would be committed to do better or differently in your leadership to enhance civility in your leadership, in your community? We know, and research tells us, it's really tough in these online environments. There's a lot of good information, and we're hopeful that there's at least one thing. And I really challenge you. You've invested time here, and if we haven't delivered to you, then you need to fill out that post survey and let us know what direction you think we'd go to give you things that are helpful. But we'd like to have you take a moment, as I give a few further accolades to our partners, to think about what's one thing you will do better or differently in your leadership because you invested your time with us today. And after you fill that out on your tool that's put in there, and if you can't access a tool, you can write it down on a piece of paper. For those of you that would like, it's just helpful for us to capture that. If any of you would like to add that into the chat, what you're committed to do, that would be helpful for us to know. So as you're doing that, I'm going to keep talking for just a moment. You take your thoughts. I did want to let you know that we will be sending out a follow-up email. It will have a brief 1-minute survey that will ask you about your reflections of the day, what worked well. It will also ask you for ideas on speakers or themes for next year's summit as we move forward. And again, I want to thank our partners, the Iowa League of Cities, as well as the Greater Des Moines Partnership, working with all of us here at the Drake University, the Ray Center, and the Olson Center for Public Democracy, as well as all the partners that invested time to be with us today. This is an important topic, but we know we can move the needle. We know we can, and it's because of individuals like you. So we want to thank you for the time that you've spent with us. We hope it's been of value. We will stay connected with you. And I hope that you can put into the chat what you're writing down as a commitment that you will do better or differently in your leadership because you invested time with us today. It's our honor to serve you. If there's any further service we can be to you, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I say that with one last other study I want to give you as an example. We have the Mayor of Ames, Iowa is on here today. And the Mayor of Ames, Iowa has been very engaged in these types of initiatives. And in Ames, Iowa last year, they took on a very difficult topic that every one of you in every community is wrestling with, and that's mental health issues. But the mayor and the council and the Ames leadership specifically brought in a civility conversation to our evening discussion about how do we approach this issue with civility. And there was a young lady from the high school that came and stood up and gave one of the most powerful representations about how they, the students in the high school, had bonded together to help those students that were in need. That was an elevation for the entire community. And that's because one mayor took one engagement from Civility Summit of how it could impact their community. It doesn't need to be us going in and doing that, but I want you to think about intentionally. What can you do in those difficult times to shape a culture of civility that can enhance the really difficult issues you're all working on? So with that, I'll turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Robert, and let him close us out for the day.
Well, thank you, Scott. And I'm seeing some really great things come in the chat. It's just so meaningful to see these things after today. So thank you all for being here. We heard from so many great speakers. We heard about the value of civility to community prosperity. We heard how to lead in difficult and divisive times, an overview of various civility work across the country. We heard from the Secretary of Agriculture, the Director of the United States Office of Public Engagement. Then we talked about mindfulness and why we do what we do, the structure of civility, how to create a culture of civility, and then that wonderful update from President Marty Martin. Thank you all for being here. I want to echo something that Scott said, which is we really do this for all of you and to hopefully move the needle. So please let us know what we can do to further serve you or to continue to advance this initiative, what tools and strategies you need locally, and even the challenges that you're facing. Sometimes it's good to hear those anecdotal stories to know what everybody is going through. So thank you to those that joined us, to all of our partners, and to everybody behind the scenes that made this possible. Megan, Heather, Hillary, thank you all so much, and anybody else on. So thank you again.